Hi everyone, today's build video is my build for the Diecast Mafia's Scrapyard Diorama challenge. For this I plan to customise this Matchbox groundbreaker, which is a bulldozer, and the Matchbox grabber, which is the excavator. Since the ground grabber lacked an interior, I decided to cover the windows with mesh to hide this. This also makes sense because vehicles like this operate in a junkyard would have some kind of protective cover over the windows for falling debris. I also do this for the bulldozer. Now for the diorama itself, I plan to build something similar to the caravan diorama that I built a while ago, in which nothing is going to be fixed into place, just so I can move things around and change things for when I use it in my future animations. So for the base, I plan to use this 4mm thick A4 styrene sheet, which I've had for quite a while. Originally I bought this to use for the tombstones on my larger scale death race builds, but it's just too thick to cut through and very difficult to work with, so I've never really used it since. So off camera I trimmed this down into a sort of rectangle shape and went through many saw blades, and it wasn't a fun task, so thankfully I don't have to do this ever again now. And then just take a bunch of cars that I have lying around just to figure out the layout. For this scrapyard I decided I'm going to go for a pick-apart type place with a service road down the middle and the construction vehicles being parked in the corners near the entrance. Now for another difficult part, I need to make some sort of entrance ramp because obviously this is a bit too thick for a car to drive up. Initially I start with my hobby knife, but find it's going to be too difficult and then just resort to using files. I skip ahead because again this is another process that just takes forever, and there's very little reward in watching it. Here's the finished result. It's a little rough, but by the time I get some texture paste on it, it should be alright. Next I make a start on the fence using this corrugated card, which I mark out and then cut into panels. And then peel off the backs so they look more like corrugated steel. With that done, I then use some super glue to glue these to the edge of the base, making sure to overlap them like they would do in real life. For the frame of the fence I use some matchsticks. Initially I used super glue, but end up switching to PVA glue because it just bonds with the materials better. And here's the finished result of that. Now for the mud texture, so I'm going to use this all-purpose filler. Originally I did look into the hobby stuff of using the mud texture paste you can get, but they were like £10 a tub, and this stuff is £1.50, so I just decided to go with this stuff because it's cheaper. So I apply this on heavily, trying to evenly spread it out across the base. And then use an old stiff brush to apply a sort of a texture to the surface whilst it's drying. And a spur of the moment idea was to take some wheels from my bits box and run them over the top of it to add some tyre tracks. And then left this overnight to dry. Now for the wrecks, I already had plenty of wrecks built up for my animations, but I decided I'd take a few of the loose body shells from my bits box and then just add some of the bits and turn them into wrecked cars. I didn't film this part, and initially I didn't plan to build this many, but I kind of got carried away, as you can see. I was quite surprised that even though I was using mismatching parts, I was able to build so many vehicles. Anyway, now there's much more space in my bits box. Here's a quick look at everything before I paint. Starting with the fence, I apply a base coat of Revell Aquacolor Rust. And then stipple on some Revell Steel. As well as pick out a few different panels to paint blue. This is to make it look like the fence has been up for a while and they've just replaced panels over time. For the mud I use some Revell Aquacolor Dark Earth. For the construction vehicles I do the same as I did with the fence, applying a base coat of rust and then stippling on either some Revell Steel or Revell Aluminium, just to make them look very worn down and used. Again with the cars I do the same, base coat of rust and then just apply a body colour over the top. Then lastly I apply a black wash over the top of everything. For the final touch I decided to add some flocking to the base, as well as to help cover up some of the rough areas on the diorama. And here we have the final build. I feel this turned out quite well. I've not really made that many dioramas. I think maybe we made a handful over the years. Sadly I did forget to make a sign saying scrapyard and such, which is something I'll probably add later. I also found this cool 3D printed car crusher, which I would have loved to have bought and added, but I don't think it would have arrived in time. but again, that'll probably be something else I add to this at a later date. Anyhow, if you've enjoyed this, be sure to check out some of the other builds from the other builders who took part by searching Diecast Mafia Scrapyard Diorama Challenge. This is hosted by BGS Customs and Mad Eye Miniatures, who are also worth checking out. As usual, please stick around for the glamour shots and the short animation, and I'll see you in the next video.